Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Acidic Alex, and today I want to give you a basic overview of the skills. And for this, we're going to be using Doctor Strange as the example because I have all of his skills unlocked, which you get, in the late 70s for every single character essentially. And I want to just, explain what the skills do, how you can read them, how you upgrade skills, how you change skills, because that's a really important part of making your character feel unique, and then also how to set up different skill sets so that you can easily swap between, single target skills, AoE skills, maybe a set for PvE or a set for PvP, so on and so forth. For those of you also wondering where we are right now, I wanted to just give a quick little teaser of the final area in the game, Sakaar, and it looks and sounds as amazing as you might have thought. This is just top to bottom so damn cool. You can sometimes see enemies off in the distance going in and out of the sand. It's really, really dope. The dude's just chilling there. And I cannot wait to fully explore this area and to hit level 100 that I'm not quite there yet. So anyways, enough of that. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to focus on this now. So in order to get to the skill page, you hit the sandwich board on the top right-hand corner, and then you hit heroes, and then you hit skill. And here is basically where we're going to be spending the rest of the time during this video. So for the sake of this, I'm actually going to move my camera over here so you guys can see the different skill masteries over there. And then of course I'm just hiding the change skill button, which you would use to swap between skills. But essentially you start off with 3 skills for your character for 2 skills for your character when you start off at level 1, and then as you level up you will unlock different skills. So that's just basically how it works. I'm not exactly sure what levels you unlock the skills now because I can't see them because I've already gotten there, but the last skill you unlock for Doctor Strange is Eldritch Sword. So they're sort of listed there in order. You start with Master of Mystic Arts and Rings of Ragador, then you get Gateway Summoning, Mirror Dimension, Eye of Agamotto, Astral Projection, Book of Vishanti, Vishanti guide me, and then finally Eldritch Sword. The basic attack and then the alt, which in Doctor Strange's case is called Soul Sunderer, you will have those unlocked by default. And then every time you level up, you're either going to unlock a new skill, you're going to unlock a new variation for the skill, like to change the skill effect and the skill damage and stuff, or you're going to just be able to level up a skill to the next level. So as you can see, my basic attack is level 10, which is the max. Can't level it up right. Oh, actually, no, it's not the max. Never mind. At 93, I can get to level 11. Oh, I thought 10 was the highest. Anywho, yeah, so as you can see here, like when I get to 85, I'll be able to level this up to 10. So yeah, you're always going to get one of those options. And essentially what you will do as you level up is you're going to unlock variations on skill. Now you can only have one variation. You can only have one of each skill equipped. You can only have 5 skills equipped, so you're going to have to make some decisions here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 skills. So 3 of them are not going to be equipable. And then from there, you can only equip each skill once, which is important, because sometimes a single skill has multiple good effects. So for example, Master of the Mystic Arts, the last option here, which is Soul Enhance, you can see there it casts a spell disc to increase my defense pierce, which is really good for PvP, and my allies' defense pierce. That's a really good skill. Now, if I want that skill, I'm going to have to give up using any of the other variations of the Master of the Mystic Arts. I won't be able to use the Barrier Curse, I won't be able to use the Circular Shackles, and I won't be able to use the base one, which is the Crimson Bands of Sidorak. The Circular Shackles are actually really good for PvP, and they're also really good in PvE for grouping up a bunch of enemies and then hitting them with a straight-on skill that would otherwise only hit one of the enemies because it's like a beam, right? So you really have to choose, and you really have to make some tough decisions. Honestly, I spent a lot of time on this page sort of theory crafting in my head how I'm going to build my character, because you want to... I think the main build for most players is going to be a mixture of, damage, like single target damage, AoE damage, and then some survivability / utility depending on the character. I'm pretty sure every character has some kind of ability that has some utility factor, whether it's a buff for you or a debuff for the enemies or something else like that. Doctor Strange, in his case, he has multiple buff skills, and he has an immunity skill, which is really, really important, Astral Projection. He's basically invincible during the animation of the skill, so it's really important, sort of core piece of his build. And then I believe right now only Captain America has a heal. No other character has a heal skill in the game right now except for Captain America, so it's very, very interesting. So yeah, that's the basics of the skills, and essentially you're gonna have to purchase. So I've already purchased them, so you won't be able to tell, but let's say I have Eldritch Sword, and then I unlock this one here, which is Tau Mandalas. You actually have to buy it with gold. So every step of the way, not unlocking skills, but leveling up skills and unlocking the variations, that all costs gold. So this is a pretty big gold sink, and I would say it's a good idea when you're leveling to go back to this page and look and see if you're about to unlock a new skill, because usually, especially when you're at a lower level, the new skills are very, very strong. Like the first time I unlocked Book of Vishanti, like, it's really good. So keep some gold, keep some gold in reserve to use that to level up these skills, to unlock the variants, because you don't want to get stuck without them and then not have a really cool skill like this one right here is just like so dope. Not have enough gold to unlock these skills. So yeah, you read through and you see, and I want to highlight this one in particular, Book of Vishanti, because it does so many different things. And this is where I think a lot of the really cool, unique aspects of the game start to shine, and how even though I can be in a raid with 3 other Doctor Stranges, we could all be completely different. Now, of course, there's gonna be tending towards one meta build over time. Right, that's not happening right now, but it's definitely going to happen in the weeks, months, years that this game is out. People want to know what the best thing is. And with an MMORPG, you're always going to have people practicing and sort of trying to tell through different testing what is the absolute most optimal build for this or that or the other thing. For now, you can just explore and do whatever you want, which is fun. But yeah, for example, Book of Vishanti is a really cool one to look at, because the base build here, which is just called Mystic Pioneer, it just does damage in a line and it pushes enemies back. And you can also see, if you compare it to Vishanti Assault, which is actually the last upgrade, the last change for Book of Vishanti, everything is different. So the class are both the same, they're both Mystic Art skills, but then the cooldown is double for Vishanti Assault versus the Mystic Pioneer. That's important, right? The cooldown being twice as long means I can only cast it half as often. The required stamina is also more than double. That's another thing that you need to take into consideration. You only have, I believe, 100 stamina to play with. It might be a little bit more than 100, I'm not sure. But anyways, your stamina is that yellow bar. You can see under my HP bar, this is 100%. You have my stamina bar. So when I go down and I attack an enemy, I'll just go down here really quickly and show you guys. My basic attack doesn't take any stamina. But this one, for example, is going to take a huge chunk of my stamina, like half. You can see it will recharge, but if I just start spamming my skills, this guy's actually ridiculously strong. Yeah, I'm just gonna... Oh, this is like a mini boss. This is like a zone boss. Okay, I need to escape his sight here, because that dude is... He's not kidding around. Anyways, you sort of get what I'm saying, right? So having multiple skills, and again, I ran into this problem when I was leveling up my Doctor Strange, so I think it's important to note, having multiple skills with really, really high cost of stamina doesn't work, because then you press one skill, you press another skill, you press a third skill, and by the third skill, your character's like, sorry, I'm out of juice. Iron Man is like malfunctioning. Doctor Strange is like, my energies are depleted. You know, like it just doesn't work. So you have to balance. You have to strike a balance between, like I was saying before, you want single target and AoE damage. You want some sort of utility, whether it's crowd controlling the enemy, stunning them, whatever, knocking them up, or healing yourself, debuffing yourself, buffing yourself up, debuffing the enemy. But then you also have to consider how much stamina do these skills, combined take. Obviously, you can play around with it and test it yourself, and that's the best way to learn, but it's important to note. So going back to my example here, the base one, 17 stamina versus 37 for Vishanti Assault. And then you can see the other really important thing is the yellow one at the bottom, Guard Break. So Guard Break is this mechanic in the game. Every character starts off at 100% Guard Break. It's this blue bar that will appear kind of in the middle of your screen as you start to take damage. And Guard Break is not the same as damage taken. You can take very little damage, but you can take high Guard Break damage. Once your Guard Break has been depleted from 100% to 0, you will be temporarily stunned for like 2 or 3 seconds. And there's nothing you can do to get out of that stun that I know of. Now, you can mitigate the Guard Break damage that you take. You can dodge and sort of run away to build up and recharge your Guard Break meter. But that is one of the ways to be really effective in PvE and PvP content, is to reduce the enemy's Guard Break gauge. All of the bosses, all of the mini bosses, all of the enemies you find in PvP will have a Guard Break gauge. And so you can see their the highest possible Guard Break, either in the game like amongst all characters, or the highest in terms of skills, or the highest just for Doctor Strange. Regardless, this skill, Vishanti Assault, has a huge benefit to me. Not only does it deal way more damage, it's like 900% damage versus 360% damage, but it also has really high guard break, which is very, very important for endgame content. So it's a single target skill versus the other one being an AoE skill, because it pierces through enemies, it penetrates. But I just prefer this one. And generally speaking, the later skills that you unlock later on are better, but not always. And so I'll give you an example of that here. You have the Astral Projection. So normally you would think, okay, I'm always going to want the last variant, right? Like you unlock these last variants at like stage 70, level 70, level 80. You're always going to want those last variants, Alex. Like if you go and look, Mirror Dimension, I have the last possible option there with Glare of Dimensional Collapse. For this one here, I have the second last one. For this one, I have the last one. But no, for some of them, you still want to keep the base or the second variation that you unlock fairly early on. So in the case of Astral Projection for Doctor Strange, the guard break is medium, which is important. I think it's medium throughout. Or no, this one doesn't have any guard break. It's actually really cool, though. And you can see sometimes the skills change completely. It's really, really cool. So like for example, this one here, instead of it being a skill that Doctor Strange moves and does damage, he actually summons these clones, these illusions that will attack enemies for a set amount of time. The illusions last 15 seconds, and they have 20% of my attack when they are attacking. And you can see, of course, then the cooldown is completely different. It's like a really long cooldown, 40 seconds. I think it's a little bit too high. Required stamina is different, etc. And then for the last one here, you have a completely different one where it summons one illusion behind the enemies, especially if they charge you, and then that will taunt, which is really cool. Okay, you can see that when you can see that it provokes enemies, and they had a little red exclamation mark above their head, and they ran the other way. So this is a very, very strong offensive and defensive skill. Again, it's got a really long cooldown. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is very, very cool, and it definitely has its uses, and it could fit your playstyle if that's the playstyle that you want to use, right? I don't know if that would provoke people in PvP. That would be really OP. I might test that out, but it's just really cool how much variation there are. Like you can, like I was saying, you can be playing two different Doctor Stranges and the same character, but if the skills are different, the playstyle could be completely different, right? You could honestly build a Doctor Strange that is very in your face and very up close and personal, or you could play a Doctor Strange with skill changes that is very very far away, long range focused, dodging around and just spamming you from long range with these sort of zappy, quick, snappy skills. So yeah, I really like Soul Predator because it gives you becomes invincible while ethereal. It gives you invincibility while you're ethereal, which basically just gives you an extra dodge. So I really like that for PvE and PvP, and it does give me a little bit of damage. Obviously, it's not the most damage that this skill could provide, or I could sub it out for another skill that just does more damage, like Eldritch Sword does way more damage, especially this variant does 730 damage. But in this case, I'm trying to balance damage with utility. So yeah, this is I'm going to give you guys now just my quick run through, because I know Doctor Strange is a really popular character. So for those of you who are playing, I want to give you guys my rundown of the skills that I use when I'm playing Doctor Strange for PvE and PvP. So most of this video is focused on people who haven't played the game yet or people who are new to the game. Now I want to give you something for the pros out there. These skills, I think, are the best for Doctor Strange, especially when you're doing endgame PvE and PvP content. You need a lot of really fast animations. It's really important to have fast animations because you want to be able to interrupt the animation and dodge if a boss or an enemy suddenly targets you for some sort of mega attack. So you don't want to be sitting there casting something for a really long time. That's going to set you up to just get clapped. So I went with 7 Rings of Ragador, Ring Repulsion. Again, really fast and very, very high damage, over 1,000% damage, really strong. Wish the guard break was a little bit higher, but the damage is delicious and the cooldown is not that bad at 19 seconds. This is probably his trickiest skill, although it's very straightforward and it's very high damage. This one is his longest animation, so you got to be a little bit careful. You definitely have to learn when to use this skill, timing-wise, especially against some of the more later bosses. If you just, willy-nilly trigger this skill, you might end up getting clapped back on. Then I actually came back to this skill after dropping it for a while, Mirror Dimension, Dimensional Collapse. This one doesn't deal a ton of damage, 350, but the guard break is good. It decreases HP recovery, which is good for PvP, especially if you come up against a Captain America. And it has bleed effect. Some enemies are immune to bleed and it'll show like resistant when it hits them, but I like this skill. It's also AoE, which is good for clearing out packs, and it's got a 10-second cooldown which is also really nice for spamming. Then we have Astral Projection. Again, I already talked about this skill and why I really like it. It's just clutch skill. I think it's one of his best skills personally. And then last but not least, we have Book of Vishanti. I also talked about this one, Vishanti Assault. This is just another really snappy skill. This one and 7 Rings of Ragador Ring Repulsion are very similar. Very snappy, high damage, single target ability. And I also rock this one because I have the set bonus from the Marvel Endgame costume for Doctor Strange. So I get +4 to the level, which really cranks up the damage. That's for PvE. For PvP, I have a completely different set. So are you ready for this? This is where it gets really, really cool. When I press the 2 down here, it changes to my PvP set. And my PvP set is completely different. So now, instead of having those skills, well, I keep some of the skills. I keep Dimensional Collapse, because this is just a really good skill for PvP. And I also do keep the Soul Predator, the Ethereal Astral Projection skill. And I also still keep Vishanti Assault. Okay, so it's still pretty similar. 3 of the 5 skills are the same, but 2 of the other skills are completely different. So I bring in Eye of Agamotto, which is really strong for PvP against characters like Storm and Spider-Man, because they will apply debuffs. Spider-Man applies his webbing, Storm applies the shock charges, the shock stacks. Here, this skill is going to give you debuff immunity. It's going to knock up enemies, which is nice. Then it gives you debuff immunity, and it cleanses debuffs for a while. Like, it cleanses debuffs, and then it gives you immunity for... what is that, 12 seconds, which is really good because the cooldown is 25 seconds. So the base cost is going to have it at 50% uptime. And what's really good is it does it for himself and allies. So if you group up with your teammates in PvP like Omega War, pop this, suddenly Spider-Man's not doing anything to you. You know, Star-Lord can't stun you, Storm can't shock stack you. It's really, really strong. And then last but not least, I have the Master of the Mystic Arts, Circular Shackles. This is just a really annoying skill. The guard break is not good, but, you know, grouping characters together and sort of briefly knocking them sort of up, or knocking them is a really useful ability. I'm still toying with whether I want to use this one long term though, because the casting time kind of takes a while, and you'll sort of experiment with that as you play the game more and more. Some skills are just really snappy to cast for a character, and other skills have like a really long wind up and they leave you sort of vulnerable for a second. But yeah, that is the basic rundown of skills, skill variations, how you level up skills, how you make them stronger, and then how you build your character and really build your play style depending on which combos you put together for these skills. Keep in mind, if you're coming from a game like Marvel Future Fight, there's no such thing as skill canceling in this game. When you press a skill, the character is going to do that skill until the animation is complete, like until the casting animation is complete, and then you press another skill. If you try to spam skills, you'll get interrupted. Like, your character will only start doing the first skill, and then you'll get interrupted by a voiceover that says, like, I can't do that. That's impossible. You know, my energy doesn't allow that. So it's a much slower paced game because of that, but I find that it really allows you to get into this rhythmic feel for your skills, especially if you're trying to cast them in a particular order. And something I didn't really talk about in the video, but I could definitely make a whole video about, is you could go a step further, math-wise, and you could look at the cooldown of your skills, and you could also look at the cooldown that you have on things like your enhanced potential, because you can upgrade your skill cooldown, and you could do the math on the rotation, and you could figure out which skill you're going to press in which order. Usually I just like to press the skill that has the longest cooldown first. So I usually open with Gateway Summoning because it's a 27-second cooldown, and then I go into Vishanti because it's 20 seconds. But if you want to get the absolute max out of your character, you could do the math on the cooldowns and do the math on the stamina versus how much you regenerate, and you could come up with, you know, a perfect rotation where you're almost never auto-attacking. Keep in mind, though, the auto-attack in this game, unlike other games, is not that bad. The auto-attack in this game has AoE, so it hits multiple enemies at the same time, and the damage is really good. Like, the damage is not bad at all. You can see I'm hitting almost 10,000. Like, I could kill these enemies in under 10 seconds just auto-attacking. There's no buffs for the auto attack, right? The auto attack doesn't give you any abilities, but it's not bad at all. So don't feel bad if you are auto attacking in between skills, because I definitely am, and it's definitely a big part of a lot of players' skill sets. So with that being said, let me know what you think of skills and how excited you are to try out different combinations. There's like 40 combinations for each character minimum, just based on those variants that we have there on that page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.